Okay, we're going to start off Unit 4 here, and Unit 4 is talking about polynomials. This first part of it should be somewhat of a review. We talked about this a little while back when we were doing, I think, Unit 1, even when we were talking about equations and so forth. So the main thing right here at the beginning, I'm on page 1 of your Unit 4 notes. Right at the top it says, what is a monomial and what is a term? A monomial, okay, is basically, it's a product, which if you remember what a product is, that means multiply, right? So it's multiplying numerals and variables, okay? Now, when you think about, like, if you had just x, that is still a monomial because it does have a numeral even though we didn't write it, right? It's 1x, okay? A term, okay, is an expression that is a single numeral, okay? So this could just be just a number by itself, or it could be a product of numerals and variables, okay? So the difference between a monomial and a term is that a term can have just a number where a monomial can't. It has to also have variables involved, okay? As we move down there, so polynomial, it says it's a monomial. Okay, so polynomial typically means like multiple or many, right? Poly means multiple or many. Monomial means just one, okay, one term. And so when you're talking about a polynomial, okay, basically it's going to be one monomial, or there's going to be multiple monomials that are added together. That's what it says is a monomial or sums of monomials. So if I had like x squared plus 2x, okay, that's a polynomial, okay, because it's got two terms, two monomials in it, okay. You could also keep going here and do plus, I don't know, 5y, okay, that is a polynomial. All right, now, there are, what I just showed you, okay, so you had x squared, I'm going to break this down again, so x squared plus 2x, okay, now notice this one right here has two terms, right? It's got the x squared and the plus 2x. Okay, so that having the two terms, this is called actually, it's called a binomial. Okay, and remember bi means two. And the one right above it, okay, the x squared plus 2x plus 5y, that's got three terms involved in it. Okay, and so since that's got three terms involved in it, it's called a trinomial. Okay, those will be things that are important to you later on, so those are some terms you're going to want to know. Now the try this right there is just basically a bunch of different ways of looking at polynomials and seeing if they are actually polynomials or not. So the first one, y squared plus y, that is a polynomial because it's two monomials, right? Y squared and y added together. There's some of them, okay? So that's true. The second one, 1 over x plus 2x squared plus 1/3 x cubed. Okay, if you look at that, the 2x squared and the 1/3 x cubed, those are all monomials, but the 1 over x is not a monomial, okay, because it's not multiplying, it's dividing, right? So that is not a monomial. So in that case, it's not a polynomial because of that one part. And then finally, the third one is a polynomial. It's got three different terms in it, so that three monomials in it, and that makes it a polynomial. Okay, so that's your first part of polynomials and just kind of breaking down the different parts of them. Now, the next part we're going to talk about are terms and factors. Okay, and we're talking about up here, we have x squared, say you have something like this, 3x squared plus 2x plus, I don't even know, I'm going to make something up, plus 5. Okay, well this polynomial right here is broken into three terms. Okay, it's got one term, a second term, and a third term. Okay, and they're terms broken up by the addition signs. Okay, so that's what makes them terms, is the addition signs. Okay, now the second part of these are factors. Now each one of these terms has factors involved in it, and basically what that means is what is multiplied together to get that term. So if you look at 3x squared, okay, what are the factors of 3x squared? You have a 3, and then you have an x and an x, right? Because it's 3 and then 2 x's. The second term has 2 factors. Okay, it's got 2 and x. Okay, and then so it's just like thinking like back to your fractions and breaking down the factors of those and so forth. Okay, it gives you some examples here. It says in 2x cubed plus 5x to the fourth and y squared. Those are both terms, and then if you broke down the 2x cubed, that's the next part on page 2. 2x cubed breaks into 2, and x cubed are the factors. Okay, and if you remember back, we talked about the number before a variable is called a coefficient, so that's what that's talking about there. Alright, so now, the next part is talking about identifying the terms. This is just some try these. It already has the answers in there for you, so really just kind of go through and see if you can make sense of what it's talking about. And finally, actually there's 2 more parts. Simplifying a polynomial by collecting like terms. It should be say collecting. To be a like term, I'm going to go over the next page here. Hold on just a second. Okay. Again, for things to be like terms, their variables have to be exactly the same. Okay, so if they have, right below that, we're towards the middle of page 2, it says number 6, you have 2m cubed minus 6m cubed. Okay, and what they're talking about here is they're talking about, it says using the distributive property. Now, what you're kind of doing here is you're factoring out the part that is alike. Okay, so the m cubed and the m cubed is what is alike. So you're taking that out, and then you're just doing the 2 minus 6. Now, I'm not going to expect you to do this, so this is just kind of showing you what you're doing, but really, please don't do this. Just, you know how to simplify, you know how to put them together. So really what you're doing here is 2m cubed minus 6m cubed, and they are like terms. So you have 2 and negative 6, that makes negative 4, and you keep your variable there. Okay, just like when you did fractions, right? You keep your denominator. Now we're keeping our variables. Okay, so if you look at number 7, it gives you, let's see if I can shrink this down a little bit here. Hold on a second. Okay, so for number 7, it says 3x to the 5th, y to the 4th, minus 6y to the 5th, minus x to the 5th, y to the 4th, plus 2y to the 5th. Okay, so now again, what I like to do, I like to go through and kind of underline what's like and what's not like. Okay, so I'm going to change the color here. So 3x to the 5th, y to the 4th is like this negative x to the 5th, y to the 4th. And negative 6y to the 5th is like the plus 2y to the 5th. Okay, so we put these back together now. We have 3x to the 5th, y to the 4th, and then a negative x to the 5th, y to the 4th. Now don't forget that you have that negative is actually like saying negative 1, right? So you got 3 minus 1. So then we have 2 x to the 5th, y to the 4th. And then the negative 6y to the 5th plus 2y to the 5th, that's going to give you negative 4y to the 5th. Okay? And that's your answer right there. You can't combine those two any more than that because the variables are not alike. Okay? Alright, and then finally, the last part that we're talking about here, we're going to go through, we have page 3 that we're going to go through as well, and then that'll lead us down into, we'll pause at evaluating, I think. Okay, the last part we're going to talk about here is degrees and coefficients. Okay, and that's at the bottom of page 2 there. And so degrees, the degree of a term, okay, so if I had the term 3x squared y, okay, the degree of a term is when you take the exponents of the variables and you add them together. Okay, so in this one, we have x squared, and then y, while it doesn't have an exponent next to it, remember it does have a 1. So the degree of this term right here would be a 3. So the degree's term, the term's degree is 3. Okay, and then it talks about the degree of the polynomial. If you're going to do, if you had like a whole string, a whole polynomial, whichever term has the highest degree, that is going to be the degree of the whole polynomial. Okay, now, if you have, flipping over to page 3 now, if you have a degree with only of 1, so meaning it just has an x in it, or it does not have like a square or anything like that, that's going to give you a line. If it's got to a second degree, it's going to be square. Okay, and finally, third degree would be cubed, just like before. Okay, like we've already talked about these a little bit with your, when we're talking about like area and volume and so forth like that. And so here we go. So we got a little example here. It says, identify the degree of each term of, we have 8a to the 4th b squared plus 3ab plus 7. Okay, and so if you broke down the different parts there, okay, the a to the 4th b squared, so we got a 4 and a 2, so the degree of this one's going to be 6. The degree of 3ab, okay, while they don't have anything there, remember there are 1's there, okay, so that's going to be 2. And now the variable for the last one, the 7, okay, it doesn't have a variable, but that just means that whatever the variable would have been, okay, so if there would have been a variable like say a, like the rest of them, that's going to be to the 0 degree. So it does have a degree, it's just a 0 degree. So don't forget that it does have, even if it doesn't have a variable involved, its degree would be 0. Okay, so it does have something. And if you were to look at the whole polynomial, the highest degree, okay, or the degree of the polynomial is 6. So that's the degree of the polynomial there. Alright, so we have a couple of examples here, and actually before we move into those, whenever you write your polynomials, if you have an answer, okay, and you have multiple terms in your answer, you want to write those in descending order, okay, with the term for the greatest exponent for x is first, okay, then the next greatest exponent is second, and so forth and so on. Okay, so if you look down below at number 1, you have 4x to the 4th plus 4x to the 7th plus x squared plus 2x cubed. If you're going to write those in the correct order, okay, you want the x to the 7th to be first, then the x to the 4th, then the x to the 3rd, and x squared. Okay, and then the same thing with the next one. Okay, even though there's y's involved, you want the x's to be the one that you start with. Okay. Alright, so you got a couple try these down there. Hopefully you can put those in descending order first. Okay, and we'll do those really quick for you. So we have x plus 3x to the 5th plus 4x cubed plus 5x squared plus 6x to the 7th minus 2x to the 4th. So the x to the 7th is the biggest, so we're going to go 6x to the 7th. Then we have plus 3x to the 5th is next. And then next would be the x to the 4th, so negative 2x to the 4th. And then we have plus 4x to the 3rd. And then you have plus 5x squared. And finally, we have plus x. So that would be putting them in descending order correctly. Okay. The next one in order would be 7x to the 5th minus 5x to the 4th plus 2x cubed plus 4x squared, and then minus 3. And the last one, okay, remember you start with x's, so it's going to be negative 14x to the 7th, and then we're going to look at minus 10 x to the 3rd y squared plus 7x squared y cubed, and the last one will be the negative 14y. Okay? Alright, that's it for this video. Hopefully that all makes sense. Go back. There's a lot of information in this thing. Make sure you understand what you're doing before you go and do any of the exercises with this.